thanks all of you. So it's really good to have you here. I'm going to say just a few short words about what like the overall structure for those that are planning, so that you can kind of rest in that. So the idea or the starting point of our discussion and what we want to do today is, it goes to what you were talking about, Maria, as well, is that, you know, that there is a lot to be said about how we communicate around sustainability and these like big challenges that we have. And a lot of that tends to be fear driven and not so much pleasure. So you're screaming at people a lot from anger, from like, don't you see how important this is, you know? Or maybe you're explaining a lot. You know, I tend to do that. That's my thing. It's like, oh, but it's like this, and you know, and then I leave people in shambles, and they are like, but what are we supposed to do with all that information? Like, how can I, come on, you know? And so this is a way of getting beneath and maybe finding some pleasure and finding some fun. And so we could call it play. We could call it improvisational theater. We could call it creating a yes and space. We could call it, I don't know, create like acting from methodology, like acting from love. And so, yeah, we'll ease into this, and we'll play together. And hopefully you can find a way to use that play in your overall. So we will do a series of exercises, and it will be very interactive, and we'll keep going until roughly 3 o'clock Central European time. So with that, I think, Belina, do you want to take it away to add anything that I missed, and also the first exercise?
Sure, I think you did a beautiful job. I studied with some of the best improvisers on the planet, and I was also on the board of directors of something called the Applied Improvisation Network. So my interest has been, how do we take the mindsets from theater improv and bring them into life, and specifically for the last many years, bring them into sustainability? Because as Amit said, that, you know, like, I met some of the early transition town people in the UK, and they were so intense and angry. And I thought, God, if that's what it takes to survive, I'd rather die out here with the happy people. This thing of improvisation, improv is actually a love technology, a secret love technology, if done correctly. And it's designed to help us in situations that would normally have us be afraid, to be present and generous and connected with each other. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce you to what I think is quite a master co-creation tool. And I'm just going to share my screen because I'm co-host. So hang on one second. So hopefully you can see the slide and you can see yourselves. And with your piece of paper, actually, if you could write these 2 sentences down, because in a moment we're going to send you into a breakout room. So the first bit of the script is let's, and then a blank. And the idea, and then the next sentence is, yes, what I like about your idea is, and a blank, and we could, and another blank. So it's a 2-parter. And in a moment, we're going to send you off to not talk about sustainability stuff, to talk about just normal life stuff. And the reason that we're practicing the skill, content neutral, as it were, is because we don't want to hit any of those mind gestalts like that Marie mentioned of like, God, this makes me want to scream. So we don't want you to fight about content. We want you just to learn the process at this moment, if that makes sense. So Amit, what's a short, nice thing that we could do together, starting with let's what?
I was also messing with the breakout rooms. Let's go have ice cream.
Awesome. So my job as partner is to say, yes, what I like about your idea is it will cool me down. And we could go for a walk in the shade. Okay, so At this point, let's drops away and we keep looping on what I like. Yes, what I like about your idea. And we could walk in the shade. Amit.
Yes, what I like about your idea is that it would allow me to not get blinded by the light.
What happens next?
And we could stop and enjoy the breeze.
Fantastic. Yes, what I like about your idea. So you see how it goes. We keep looping on that, and just as some specificity. So let's just happens once, and then what I like about your idea, be specific without changing their idea. Be specific of what you actually like about it, and then move the story forward. So I'm going to stop sharing. You're going to have about 2 minutes with your partner. Let's have the person with the longest hair start with the let's, and then you keep cycling from there. Are there any questions before we send you off into breakout rooms? Maria's got it. She's good. Okay. Cool. If you have a question, just, I guess, come on back from the breakout room. But yeah, off you go.
Off you go.
Awesome. I'm going to go too. Is that right, Amit?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody goes.
And it's for 2 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hallå!
Hallå,
Hur är
hallå.
läget?
Ja, det är skitbra. Själv.
Fint bara. Vill du börja?
Ja, let's go have a swim.
Yes. What I like about your idea is that it allows me to feel light in the water. And we could splash water at each other.
Yes, what I like about that idea is that we bring out our inner child, and that gets us to explore explore more.
Yes, what I like about your idea is that exploration would allow us to discover things. And then when we have discovered things, we could build them.
Yes, and what I like about your idea is to build something positive. And we can and I'm blanking. We can move to the sun.
Yes, what I like about your idea is that will definitely keep us from freezing. And then we can look at the earth from the sun. I'm going to close the rooms. I think we're at 2 minutes. So yeah. Awesome. You have some 15 seconds. You can go if you have 14 seconds, 11.
No.
Yay! Melker and I made money at the end there.
Oh, cool. We're all back.
We're all back. So what was useful or interesting for you about that activity?
I found that the movement was not of pulling the brakes or explaining or opposing, was creative, flowing into another direction. was very healing.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it's very, very interesting to see where you can get when you involve play in that sense. Just play and see what comes out of it. I think that is a very interesting tool to use.
really nice. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. I'm sorry.
no,
What happened for
it's
you?
generative. I'm just thinking, like, me and Jonathan, we ended up at the sun, you know, and so it's like there's endless possibilities. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It is generative. I absolutely agree. There's something, you're dealing with the emergent, and you're also specifying the bit of it. So the skill is, so if Amit, if you had said, let's go swimming, and I say, what I like about your ideas, I like swimming, that doesn't help us solve the thing in other ways. If I say, what I like about your ideas, I like being cool, that requirement can be solved in lots of different ways. So it's a really masterful negotiation tool and co-creation tool. I've done this all over the world. I've done it with like MBAs, and sometimes I hear things like, what I like about your idea is not much, and we could do something else instead. And so I usually pause it like that's an illegal move, because we're really trying to build the yes and the accept and build, and particularly accept and build on the parts that you are happy with. Because again, in this space, it's so easy to get focused on all the stuff we don't want. And this helps also for our personal resilience. So if you have a situation where you're confronted with this awful thing. I was doing a corporate thing in Russia, and I arrived and my bags did not. And next to me, there was a lady who had the same thing happen, and she burst into tears, bless her. I totally understood. I'm like, no, I'm going to like something about this situation. And the hotel I was staying at gave me the weirdest piece of underwear I've ever seen as like my pack, and it had like a huge tummy and tiny leg holes, and that was my, like, you know, what I like about this idea is I now have the weirdest piece of underwear I've ever seen. So
what I like is that you've got a hat.
Exactly. So being able to find the bright spot links with what's your name and something nice. Yeah, it's that same muscle of finding the bright spot that lifts us and gives us energy and helps us connect.
What I, if I can jump in here, what I really, really liked about it was the fact we ended up healing horses. But what I liked about it was the fact that it's creative, but it's also constructive. So it's not like, you know, leaving the reserve. Now it is leaving the reserve, but you're actually, you're still on the reserve, both at the same time. And I think that's, if you're too practical and too, within a frame, you're not going to make any forward momentum. If you're only practical, this allows you to play, and this is your whole thing, that being able to play, and there's no wrong answer. That's what I like about this.
Nice. And even if somebody gives you something that you would normally say no to, and first of all, the idea is not to mess with your partner, right? Like, you don't want to go like, let's do something terrible, you know, like that's not, but every once in a while, like, people will give you something that you're actually like, oh, I don't, you know, so say I didn't drink alcohol, I do, but say I didn't drink alcohol, somebody, let's go to a wine bar. What are some things that I could like about going to a wine bar with you? Yeah, let's hear.
What I mean, they're nice people, I think.
They're nice people. We could spend time together. We could listen to live jazz. So that's what it's doing. It's really what's in the frame of this thing that I genuinely like. Okay.
Giving you a hand if you get too drunk and fall.
Yeah, exactly.
I can drive us home. All that stuff. Really nice. Cool.
That's
Amit,
fantastic. I
what
think also just a
happened next?
reflection on this. We had a discussion yesterday about innovation, and what both of them. Mike is working at Tesla with glass, and then Mayra is working at an innovation agency, and they do a lot of social innovation, or like innovation, like reframing how people use stuff and so forth. And a lot what they were saying was that it is a lot about problem framing, understanding a problem, and finding, if you can find a different or deeper or other understanding of the problem, then you can also find another solution. So I thought, I mean, to me it relates a lot to that, like you say, exercising that muscle, and like stepping out and stepping out and stepping out and expanding in a sense.
Nice.
May I share something, because the synchronicity is too big? When I was thinking what I was going to share, I was almost picking up a telephone call I got from my neighbor that said she had someone that would like to hire my cottage on the back, and it's a guy from my hunting group. Okay, okay, no, thank you. If he's a hunter, I said, okay. Oh, you don't want hunters? Well, it's not that I don't want hunters. So give him the phone, and we'll see what he wants it for. If he wants to hunt from here, it's not gonna be, because this is a place for not hunting animals, for creating healing more than. But if he just wants to come here, he's very welcome. So let's see. So, but I noticed that no, the enemy, the opposite. And it was
Beautiful.
so fascinating to see it as something positive, the opportunity to take care of my opposition.
Yeah. So, sometimes you're right. Sometimes yes and is taught badly. It's taught like you have to say yes to everything. It's like, no.
Yeah.
And so sometimes what you're saying yes and to is your inner voice.
Yeah.
Saying this doesn't feel right. So there's sort of two challenges. There's an internal one, but there's also can I see something beautiful in this thing that I would normally shut down from fear? Yeah. Cool. What else? What happens next?
Yeah, where do we go now? Do we want to move on, or are we going to do this again?
I thought we were going to do a writing activity and do this later.
Let's do that.
Do the thing that you were talking. Yeah. Okay.
Let's do that. So the name of this session is Beyond Sustainability. And so I would invite you to pick out your pen and paper, and we're going to spend about 3 minutes and just write down what does that mean? What does it mean for you? Beyond sustainability. And then we'll do a sharing. think I'm giving the 1 minute warning here. Yeah, that's roughly it. Are we feeling okay? I just open the floor, I think, for anybody who feels inclined to share what came up.
I wrote down that for me, beyond sustainability means that thinking about what if everything was well, what if things were regenerative, and what if the world was one big functioning ecosystem that we are living within the boundaries of, and that's kind of the playing rules for the field, and everyone plays within it. And how would human pursuit look like in a system like that? And maybe we not talk about sustainability anymore, but human thriveability or something like that. Thank you.
Awesome. Can I jump in here for a
Yes,
second?
go.
I love that you said that, Melker. In January 2014, I launched a piratey playful learning adventure for adults called the Thrivable World Quest. And it was based on organizational biomimicry, and we did a lot of activities like what I like about your idea. And we ran it in Tehran and Tokyo and Berlin and Amsterdam and all these places around the world. We had 9 events to see in different areas of organization what would be different if you really wanted life on the planet to thrive. So it's just going on. If you look at thrivableworld.org, you'll see kind of an ancient frozen website that we're still doing stuff with. My partner in crime wrote a book called The Age of Thrivability, Michelle Holliday, which you might enjoy. And it was totally based on, Malcolm, what you're saying of what happens when we aim for what we want, for beauty, for joy, for connection, for regenerative. And it's almost like the Buckminster Fuller, sorry, I'm dyslexic, Buckminster Fuller thing of like, let's just create the system we want instead of battling the one that we don't. I mean, there's certain fights that actually do need to be done because of where the power is. And I think the time is now, like with this conference and everything else, let's build the stuff we want instead of getting mired in what we don't want. So that's, I did that from 2014 and it was really beautiful. So I'm delighted you said that.
I could link arms with you there. I've been working the past 20 years with seeming opposites. So I have worked in the corporate side towards nonprofits. I've worked in academia towards media, of sort of the governmental towards nonprofit, et cetera, et cetera. And the one thing that struck me is that people are digging where they stand, and the conversation hasn't really moved forward in a lot of ways. It's moving very quickly in other areas, but others not. Because the nonprofits, for example, feel, okay, you know, if companies would only take, for example, the environment or child rights into consideration, then so on and so forth. So I think beyond sustainability for me is the, okay, but we are here now, and this blends into your exercise of yes, I like that, and then moving the conversation forward instead of staring ourselves blind at all the challenges, or wishing that, as one of the comedians in your crew talked about, the executives who have blood running down their faces, these sort of, these vampires working in corporates. It's, I wish that they would do this. Well, let's work with what we have, and this is what the situation is. That's the one aspect. It's also taking into consideration what's in it for me, doing that exercise towards a party that may not share your values. And it boils down to empathy, which is something that people fighting the good fight are very good at. And even showing empathy for the hunters who want to, to hire your, sommarstuga, as we say in Sweden, for things that you don't necessarily agree with. Something that also struck me when I was working with H&M, and I was writing their sustainability report as an external. And something that struck me is it's this idea of, when are we 100% sustainable? And sustainability has been treated very much like a project, and in actual fact, it's a process. And the arena that is really good at process is innovation. And there is no one who's ever going to say, no CEO worth their salt is going to say, we're done innovating. They're not going to say that. And it also allows room for failure. And I've seen companies, for example, in the steel industry or in heavy industry, that they'll make an attempt to do something and they might get it wrong. Very often, things will go wrong, and then the people on the opposing camp will say, ha ha, and then they'll shrink back. So we want people to grow and to blossom. And I think beyond sustainability is looking at a process. It's about looking at challenge-driven innovation, because the very essence of innovation is making something better. And what's beautiful about innovation is the fact that it requires a large volume of ideas from as many different types of people as possible to make this work. You can't have a group of necessarily artists or a group of engineers trying to solve something. We've got to work together. And this is something that I think innovation invites everyone, because it's sexy and it's interesting. And one last thing, regardless of what industry I've looked towards, where it's steel or aluminum, any heavy industry, design, you name it, the individuals who have been representing innovation, social entrepreneurship, and sustainability have very often been women. And that's sort of something that there's something about the problem solving that really, really appeals actually to most people. But it's also something that's quite, now I feel I'm going off on the reserve here, but it's part of a world of wisdom that we're working on right now is embracing the feminine. And I think that's really where we are coming into our strength. So that's what it means to me.
Maybe I could take a little hint on that, because I'm off for support my son in his workshop. But
can you turn up your volume? No, we could hear you, but we just couldn't hear you well.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah, it's like there is kind of this beingness and this doing, if we could kind of relate a little just structure out of feminine masculine. And I've come to see that all doing one way or another needs to be sustained by the beingness. And there isn't, if the doing is here, disconnected from the beingness, it will collapse sooner or later. I've seen that in my own life when I thrive with that kind of energy, with that very strong, focused, powerful kind of, for the eyes of the mental structure of society. So I really love the tribal world, because it was kind of, I wrote a space where it flows beyond the tension of right and wrong, with an open heartness to receive, listen, and take in others' perspective. And when I mean others, I mean life, I mean sentient beings, I mean life in all its levels. Clear on my integrity and freedom to say yes or no. And it reminded me of what you were saying, Belina, that, I mean, a no is always a yes to myself. So, and then landed into this beingness and doingness, which, when there's a beautiful balance, because sometimes we go more there, but to be able to sustain both in our lives and in our collaboration and our co-creation. So that was it for me then. Thank you for the question, Amit. It was very good to receive it.
Invitation is open, but I'm feeling called. Is anybody feeling it now, or can I go? I wrote. I think that it relates to what you were saying, Annika, as well, and that's what I mean by like these conversations that I've had with both of you over the past few weeks have been like in my head and working their magic, and so sustainability, in a sense, the way that we interpret it is topical. Like it's a lot of knowledge and a lot of stuff, and like a lot of like propositions and things you have to know and to be good at it, and it beyond sustainability for me is like it's process. That's where I started off, and then the process of learning, and it's an ongoing process. It's a verb. It's like something that you do, or that you are, or that you live. And so that means that it's not just a concept. It's nothing unless it's participated in, something we also have to do. And that brings me to what we're doing now, which is sort of co-creation. And so accessing what I believe to be, like, if we are able to invite in a constructive, in a generative, in a positive way, then we can access the more, like a whole that's bigger than the sum of its parts, in a sense. And so, yeah, so I wrote participation, and then I wrote co-creation, then I wrote invitation, and then I also wrote life as the end point in that. So it's this ongoing beingness, in a sense. And I've been listening a lot to this person. I've been talking about him a lot, but John Vervaeke right now lately, and he's talking about modal confusion as a concept. And he talks about, so modal confusion means that we are solving being problems from a having point of view, in a sense. So we're trying to have stuff where we should just be. And it is that there's something there, like when we participate, when we are here and present and just doing this, and if we can take this attitude and bring it in, if I can hold enough space for others to keep being afraid, and I can just hold that and not react on it, but rather hold it, then that is at least the door for me to get beyond just sustainability, in a sense. So that's where I went. Thank you.
Nice. Can I poke one of your frames?
Go.
You said hold the space for people to be afraid. So improv tunes our attention to what's delightful, even if we're afraid. So I'm wondering if there's something about you're holding the space not for them to be afraid, but to connect them with joy in a scary situation, or something. You're not holding them in the fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Ooh,
and I think, I mean, there's also the projection because I'm still, there's still that aspect of like, how do I appear in this context, or like what role do I take here? And that is, it's limiting, because I sometimes think about, we had this wonderful there's a water camp, and they were talking about this, and so there was like a guy who was in the military, and there was a guy who was in the mining industry, and they were, both of them were talking about that they were running their organizations and driving their change from love, you know, and so I'm like, if they can do that, you know, then I should be able to do the same thing. So I think what you're getting at is absolutely, yes, exactly. What you're getting at is right. I mean, the fear, it's also that projection of my own sort of fear of like, what will people think, and so forth. So it's like I'm interpreting fear where there might not be any, let's say. But yes, I agree. Thank you.
For me, it was, I started writing words, and I ended up with inclusiveness and connected. And then my mind just wandered away on, wait, what actually is sustainability? And then I was just shooting away. And I got stuck at something that you wrote as well, Belina. Like, what if we invite all innovation to be for social and environmental thriving? Like having that core mindset and having the core question, is what I'm doing actually contributing to humanity and the planet? And it goes align a lot, I think, with our disconnection to the biosphere and Mother Earth, and having that connectiveness, and in combination with innovation, I think really is the future and beyond sustainability. And I think that was where I landed. Yeah.
So I'll go. Yeah, I'm gonna catch up with what I brought, but so many things came up from hearing you all, and it was like that. So beyond sustainability, for me, or has been so far that I can observe my real needs. So if I go inside and I start observing really my needs of consuming, and when I declutter all that no longer really it's important or brings anything sustainable, I came up with a lot of energy, because I'm not investing it or setting up in places where it's not taking me anywhere. But then that developed in terms of reusability, upcycling. But the key word that touched me was the one from Melker, is regenerative. So it arrived at the fact is, beyond sustainability is how much it's gonna take me to let go of doing the things that is not longer serving me. And I think that at an individual level, but also like social and collective, or companies, is like how long it's gonna take the organizations and companies to let go of dynamics or procedures that are no longer serving what is being exposed through the expansion of consciousness and the innovation, and is that there is a common sense. And it was connecting with what also Maria was saying, that that stability is based on the common. So if Liana steps away and connects with that common, then it is so easy that the true being, the regenerative one, shows up and express itself in many, but it's just that thing is like that balance, or having to come to a point where without enjoying the fear of failure, I can without guilt observe all and just like you say, Amy, it's like just let the heart talk and work and do the work. And there is no fail. That is like there is no failure, no races. It's just no competitions, and it just allows that regenerative being to come up with the solutions and where it's the thing to do at the moment. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts that popped up in this? Somebody wants to share anything more, or are we moving on? Oh, we'll go. I was thinking, yeah.
Sorry, just a real quick thing, connecting with what Maria said. I'm reading a really good, and actually with Liana, I'm reading a really nice book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it's about trauma and the impact of trauma on our bodies and brains. And I think how we've run the world is quite traumatic. So and what I love about the book is that the sponsoring energy is love, and it's grounded in science. So it's a really interesting kind of combination of those two. And he talks about that we have two bits of our prefrontal cortex, and one is like the getting on and doing it and planning and just soldiering on. But that bit is not connected in with our primitive brain, limbic brain, how we're doing. So the reality is, if we're in that mode, we could be leaking all sorts of unhealthy, fear-based stuff and have no idea. So we're like a nightmare to work with. If we can also nurture that bit of the prefrontal cortex, which is checking in on self and having them work together, we're in a much better state. We're easier to collaborate with. We notice more about our environment. So I just thought that kind of connected in with kind of the being and doing thing that Maria had set up earlier. And for me, the improv muscle kind of helps us with that part of the prefrontal cortex that we can then move to the right. Let's take what we've just noticed and use it in our way forward. Okay, now I'll be quiet. Amit, it's your turn.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. And yeah. And that relates to mindfulness too, in a sense, because if you are noticing, if you have methods for noticing what's going on, then perhaps that would allow you to leak less, to use your language. I was thinking we've kind of, because we're so few and like we all spoke already, unless you want to add something on the topic of beyond sustainability, I think we could maybe move to the rant.
Now that we're all blissed out, let's get angry.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah,
awesome.
It's both, right? Balance.
So exactly. So there's an activity. One of the things that I do, and thank you for letting me play with you guys. There's an activity called the rant, which I learned from a lady named Kat Coppett, and it helps us to just tune into the anger and do a neat Aikido move on it. So what I invite you to do, actually, grab your piece of paper and pen, and just for 90 seconds, we're going to brainstorm about 10 things that just piss you off. Just, God, that irritates me. It could be, like rude people. It could be traffic, heat waves, whatever it is. We're going to have 90 seconds to just brainstorm in a line stuff that pisses you off. Is that clear? On your mark, get set, go. 30 more seconds. Okay, right, wherever you are, please. Let's hear just one thing from each person. God, that pisses me off. Let's hear so. And Annika, you're like, let me tell you. Right? What's your thing?
Okay,
What's one thing?
One thing that gets me is if I hold the door for someone and they walk through without like taking the door stewardship, that they just kind of waltz right through there and then don't say thank you. And then 5 minutes later, I'll get a door in my face. But the first one, really.
So you've been to Montreal. Sorry, that was my experience in Montreal. What's one thing? Melker, what's one thing for you that pisses you off?
One thing that pisses me off is people telling me I'm not drunk enough.
Okay, thank you. Amit, how about you?
Well, I was going for like spoiled fruit. Like when you buy fruit at the store and you come home and they're destroyed, like no end to the anger.
I understand. I have been there. Jonathan, how about you?
Can I actually tack on to that? Somebody who you sent to the store to get fruit and they've just shoved whatever fruit came in. Like they didn't take the time to look at what was in there. And they just shoved it in there and then they brought it home and fruit is, sorry.
Annika, it's not your turn at the moment. Let it go. Okay. Jonathan.
Yes, I wrote the people that are not believing that sustainability is real or a real issue.
Yeah, nice. That's a good one and a frustrating one. Liana, how about you?
The people who throw things on the floor, like litter and garbage at the street, and the ones who don't recycle, they really piss me off.
Awesome. Okay.
And then also the ones who say that ayahuasca is a drug.
Okay. All right, let it go. Just one. That's okay. Awesome. So here's my first invitation. So I use this. I've for the past 5 years, I've been teaching people who work in climate and social issues a really compassionate form of stand-up comedy, and we do this in the first class. And what I invite you to do now, because each of you mentioned people, is let's take about a minute and for everything that just pisses you off that mentions specific people, see if you can abstract it to the behavior. So instead of saying people who ... it might be, for example, Jonathan, with you, the denial of climate change. So you're moving it to the behavior versus connecting it with a group of people. Does that make sense? So you're just teasing it apart.
So if I have assholes on my list, then how would I?
So what is the behavior for in your mind of assholes? And it's that behavior. Yes.
There's so many kinds of meat. This is like a smorgasbord. It's a treasure of assholes.
I'm sure there's clubs for that. This is not the topic of our. Cool. Good. So we got our list of things that make us grumpy. We've abstracted it a bit from connecting it with a particular person or group of people to just what's the behavior. Now my invitation is to circle one of the things that you feel like you can complain about with energy for an entire minute to all of us. So I think, Amit, we're going to do it in fishbowl instead of breakout, if that makes sense. So does everybody in their list, and on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you don't it doesn't really matter, and 10 is you're going to rip somebody's head off. Pick a 6. Don't pick a 10. Pick a 6. Just so you're grumpy and you can complain about it for an entire minute. Does everybody have something like that on their from the thing? Okay, so here's what's going to happen in a moment. I'm going to invite somebody just to complain with energy, and we're going to listen. And then we're going to do a second process. But the person who's complaining, it's called the rant for a reason. This is just a monologue of all the stuff that pisses them off about this one topic. Okay, so who would like to go first? Annika, you're like closest to your thing. Okay, so I remember there's just a minute. It's on one topic. On your mark, get set, go.
Oh, was it me? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay. Bad customer service. And I'll give you an example. I was in a store, very expensive store. I'd saved up ages to buy a very, very expensive scarf. And the whole point about the scarf, everybody knows that you get a nice bag. You get it beautifully wrapped, and you get the zhuzh, you get somebody feeding you grapes. It's like an experience. And I get to the counter, and they kind of toss the scarf in a box, and then they took a plastic bag from anywhere and just shoved it in there. And I looked at her, and I was a little embarrassed, but I was also a little incensed, and I may have had a glass of wine before I walked into that store. And I said, could I have the nice bag, please? You know, the paper, and yes. And she said, we've run out. I'm like, excuse me, how do you run out of paper bags? A major store. Okay, she ran out. But I have one in the garbage. Would you like it?
Okay, that's 1 minute. Round of applause for Annika there. Okay, now our job is, based on what she said, here are the beautiful things we suspect she cares about and wants in the world. So I heard just being cared for. She wants to be beautifully cared for. And there's something about value for money. So Annika, you're gonna stay mute for a second. We're gonna reflect all the good stuff. So what are some other things that, based on what she said, you suspect she cares about?
I heard that she cares about beautiful things. So it was a beautiful bag and a beautiful scarf and beautifully wrapped, and so.
Nice, very cool.
She also likes to dedicate herself time and resources for something special. Yeah. So it's like something beautiful.
Really nice. Nice to put. Melker.
I also acknowledge that she likes the caring aspect of an experience, that actually buying something can be an experience if you do it the right way.
Yeah, beautiful. Jonathan, anything to add? No, we did a good job. How did that resonate with you, Annika?
Oh, that's awesome. It made me feel beautiful inside to hear it. And it's not only that, it's spot on. I like the experience, and I like the feeling that there is attention to detail, that there's attention to beauty, and beauty is massive. It's really, it's a aesthetics for me is massive, and caring. So it's both, it's the extremities. It's something that's quite shallow in a way, but actually it isn't, because it says something.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for going first. So you've got the process now. We're going to have another person rant, and just, again, don't help us. Now that you know that we're doing, don't help us. Just complain like Annika did about the thing that pisses you off. So who would like to go next for their minute rant? Awesome. Melker, you're on your mark. Get set. Go.
All right. I wrote down being expected to fit in a frame that doesn't serve me, and that's about the drunk issue I told earlier. And the story goes, the most recent story was when we were in Helsingør in Denmark, and we were a group of guys, very masculine, very much testosterone in that group, and everyone's main goal that evening was getting shit-faced. And at one point in the evening, I'm sitting with a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, but he gets shifted when he's drunk, and he was too drunk to stand up. He had already puked, and we were talking, and he was angry at me for not being drunk enough, while he was not being able to stand up straight because I had not indulged myself in the experience and fit into the frame that doesn't serve me. And he was angry about that, and that just pisses me off that he cannot acknowledge that he's the problem in that situation, not me.
Beautifully timed. Thank you very much. So based on what Melker said, what are some beautiful things we suspect he cares about and wants in the world? Maybe Jonathan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. And I feel that it's a bit of cheating because I know the story. But
were you the friend? No.
No. But what I hear in Melker is that I think that he wants more feminine energy in men to embrace in that side of us as well, and not let that masculinity, testosterone kind of mindset take over too much, especially when
I'm going to pause you right there because you're bundling in what he doesn't want with what he wants, and we're just trying to reflect what does he want. So there's something about feminine energy, and softness, or great. Okay, thank you. What else is in there?
Authority. I feel like he's connecting with the self-authority and the respect of just being and taking your own decision, and that to be acknowledged by that.
Beautiful. What else we got?
I also heard the care for the friend, and that there was a I don't know, I heard the part that they're doing something, they're okay to do that, but there's also I heard like an undertone of like caring for the friend, like they could be, they deserve, like they could be better, like they could be like, you don't have to do this, you're still my friend, like you're my friend before, but like when you get shifted in that way, then something happens.
So what would be a way to frame that so it's really, this is what he wants does that make sense? Like his friend to accept him as it is, maybe his friend to be clear in himself, to be sober, possibly.
Both, yeah. To no, I don't know. I think that's it. Yeah, somewhere along there. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Annika, how about you? What did you see?
I saw acceptance in there, wanting to be accepted, but not willing to indulge in self-destructive or immature behavior in order to gain that acceptance. Sorry.
It's hard, isn't it? And that's the point too, is to notice how hard it is and to feel how clean and beautiful it feels when you don't bundle them, when you just give the gift. There's a different energy to it. That's why I'm being strict with you. Right.
Acceptance. A heartfelt wanting to be accepted for who he is.
So Melker, how does that resonate with you?
It really resonates. It's fun to get different words than I would use myself. It's kind of a new angle onto thoughts I already had, in a sense. It was beautiful.
Excellent. That's cool. Thank you. Right, who would like to complain next with energy? Yeah, awesome. So, Jonathan, on your mark, get set, go.
Yes. So yesterday I was playing frisbee golf with my friends here in the forest, and it was this beautiful nature. And it was this clear sign when we started playing that trash cans are at hole 6, 12, and 16. So bring your trash, put it in the trash cans. And I really enjoyed the course and with my friends. And as I walk along the course, I see there's a trash, there's a can, there's a plastic bag. I pick it up. I ran to my friends and say, like, how can people be this stupid? I mean, your trash can's right there. Why don't put it in the trash can? Like, help each other to keep the nature as beautiful as it is. It is our home. I mean, it is everyone's responsibility, and it isn't that hard. I mean, 2 meters from this trash can, why don't just, it is as much effort to throw it on the ground as put it in the trash can, right?
Awesome, thank you very much. I just, let's use the system that's there. like that's, what else did you guys hear?
Let's care for the environment.
Yeah.
Let nature be nature.
Yeah.
And responsibility of his own acts, and yeah.
It is. Anything else?
Obviously the environmental aspect. So love for nature.
Beautiful.
I'd say beauty and keeping beauty.
Yay. Nice. How did this resonate with you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was quite obvious. But yeah, it really resonates. And yeah, and something that I've been developing a lot the last years. Really to care, like it really hurts inside me when I see trash around, and especially in these situations when there is actually a system, like Amit pointed out, a system for it. Like, why don't use it? It's working.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to get to tune into the anger and grumpiness while you're on a hammock in the forest.
Yeah.
Because it took you a while to kind of tell us the bit of that pissed you off. We're trying to go straight into it just so we can see when we're in that mode to feel the difference. Does that make sense? Of there's something beautiful that's driving that. And it's a real different energy if we connect with others from the grumpy aspect or the beauty aspect. It's totally different, their experience of it. So that's what we're, but you have a difficult setup to be grumpy. So
you have to be sitting on the floor in a very uncomfortable meditation mat to really.
Then you can do it for hours. Thank you, Jonathan. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So who's next? We got two more.
Oh, I can go.
Awesome. Okay, tune into your grumpiness.
Yes.
Again, don't help us. On your mark. Get set. Go.
The occurrence when people are in a queue and you have a long line, there's some sort of road work in front of you, and people that are keeping excessive distance. Like, what the hell? What the hell is wrong with that? Why wouldn't you just like get up to the next car, like drive right next to it? Like, why are you keeping like 100 meters in between? Because you just want to, for what reason? For no reason whatsoever. And like, you're pushing the queue back forever, and you have to be waiting. And like, I'm in line, but for like no particular reason at all. If you just like bunch up, it'd be much smoother. You could like flow through. And like also like the braking, like sort of braking way too hard, way too early, and like leaving all this space in front of you while you're driving. Like, what the hell is going on with that? Like, I'm seriously, like, you're behind the wheel and you're just looking forward and you're like, there's space. And then also the same thing of like joining lines too late. Yeah.
Let it shake it out. Yeah. Go for it.
I sense a strong appreciation for efficiency.
That's what I wrote too. Nice. Very cool. What else?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, but I'll say fond of a system working then.
Nice. Yeah.
And a passion for precision and trying to make us all agree. Just get together. So he loves to
shared understanding.
Everyone or everywhere he goes. Like, let's family. Let's arrange this.
Yeah, really like buy-in to like agreement. Really not. And motion, like you like to be in motion. Annika, what did you hear?
An appreciation for flow, that
Yeah.
you just sort of keep it moving. And if that happens, then we all get what we need.
How does that resonate with you, Amit?
I like that, especially the that framing of flow, and that it's like like unnecessary suffering, I guess, in a sense. Like we're in this spot because some of us are like just don't care about sort of the way that you could be doing things. So yeah, I like that. That's really nice.
So there's, there's something about connection with others, wanting to support others in their journey. Like you can make it more metaphysical. Yeah, awareness of other people and what they need. There's something in there too.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, Liana, can you stoke up your grump? Let's see what you got.
It's really hitting me lately, actually, because it's a frustration of not being capable to comprehend what is the real reason behind that decision. So when I'm in the UK, I have to wear the mask now, and not like 2 months ago when it all started, but now I have to wear it to go to shops where the people who are working there don't have to wear it. So it's like, okay, well, you are the one talking and relating to people more than me, probably, with unknown ones all the day, and you don't have to wear it, but I do. Okay. Then I go to Spain, and it's totally the opposite. The people who work in the public spaces, they have to wear the mask. And then now I also have to wear it. And even the box of the mask says that it doesn't even prevent COVID, or so it's like, it's still the mystery of the mask and how to use it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. What are some beautiful things on that very topical? What are some beautiful things that you suspect she wants and cares about?
I suspect she cares about clarity and clear communication.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think cooperation, being on the same page.
Yeah. Consistency.
Yeah. Consistency, that's what I was going to say too. Yes. Yeah. Consistency, and then also there's also like a deeper level of care for people there. Like it's the topic is it's still important to like fix it, to do it, but just let's just agree and like do it together and like in the best way possible.
I'm getting fairness. There's this feeling of something, yeah, fairness.
How do those resonate with you, Liana?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing how out of something that when you are there is just frustration, that when there is a space for, okay, let's observe it. There is something behind it. It is beautiful. It has been an amazing exercise. Yeah, thank you.
You're so welcome. 2 weekends ago, I got to participate in an eco conference with Julia Butterfly Hill. Do you know the lady who stayed in a huge redwood tree? She lived there for like 1.5 years to protect it from being cut down. And she was saying, she tries to have her sponsoring energy be love. What would love have me do, think, and say? And I got to ask her the question because I work a lot with people who are passionate about the environment and often tune into their anger. And she said that anger, it needs to be allowed because it's a defense mechanism that something's going wrong. And we still need to tune into what's the beautiful thing underneath it and share that. I think when we're trying to invite people to think about their behaviors, reflect on their behaviors, if we can reflect that underneath thing instead of shouting at them, we have a much better chance of having them feel safe enough to reflect and possibly shift. In the body keeps the score, and I'll stop after this. the guy talks about a neuroscientist who talks about our brain as a horse and rider. And the horse is like the limbic system, reptile system bundled into one. And the rider is the 30% of your brain that's kind of the rational bit. And if you shout at somebody's horse, instead of listening to your argument, all of a sudden they're like trying to steady their horse. So when I work with activist climate scientists about doing this nice form of stand-up comedy, my invitation is be loving. How can you woo their horse so the rational part can think about what you're saying and they don't feel threatened? So that's why I have people do this activity. Amit, over to you.
Thank you. Yes. And I was going to hand over the reins then to Annika.
Nice.
Perfect. So for the past few years, I have been trying to crack the nut of how to move beyond sustainability, how to actually make progress and change behavior. So it's about the process and not the project. And do it in a way that, from a nonprofit perspective, getting companies to eat the chocolate-covered broccoli. And what that means is the chocolate is what everybody loves. This is what everybody wants to eat, and the broccoli is good for you. And I work for a department at Save the Children that does social due diligence. And it's a little bit like a trip to the dentist. We go in, we dig around in the value chain and supply chain, and we look for negative social impact. And once we found it, people are going to have to do something about it. It's going to hurt, and they're going to have to pay for it. So I'm trying to present another option that's more like the beauty industry. I'm not selling the scalpels or the Botox or this, but I'm selling the sizzle rather than the sausage. What is the final result? And this is the idea that innovation is sort of like the beauty transformation. This is the final goal. This is the real deal. So this methodology that I'm developing, it's called the unk-unk lab experience. And we're going to do a little exercise today about in the spirit of this. And unk-unk stands for the unknown unknown. And it has an unfortunate association with Donald Rumsfeld, who is slightly evil. But he talks about what you don't know, you don't know. And this is very often a blind spot for companies and children's rights, for example. Children represent a third of the global population, sometimes half of the population, but they have very, very special needs, and they are habitually forgotten in the social due diligence exercises. But most companies don't want to talk about child labor. They don't want to touch it because it's such a traumatic topic. And it's so big that a lot of companies feel, why should we, do this on our own? And why should we pay for it? And why should, this feeling of unfairness. So what the unk-unk does is you take the tool, which we use, it's called a Child Rights Impact Assessment. And we use that as a means to find the unknown unknown. And it's important because it's a little bit like walking to a stranger and saying, so when did you stop beating your wife? Or tell me about your mental health issues. No one is ever going to say, well, this is, people don't, and they might not even know that they have an issue. So this is about getting to the unknown area in a safe space for a company. And the idea is that you work in a safe space and you do this impact assessment. And you look where, from headquarter level down to agricultural and factory level, where is there no negative social impact? And based on this, and traditionally, just as a sidebar, my department has done this, and we'll put up this very lovely fancy report, tie it with a little bow, and then hand it over to the company. And then sit and wait for the company to spring to action, which out of 100 companies, maybe 5, maybe 3 will do something. Traditionally, what happens is either the company says, thank you very much, that's it, or they take this report and they put it in a drawer and they forget about it for 3 to 5 years, and then they look at it again, kick the nonprofit out, and they'll try and solve a problem that might look very different from when it first was done, and try and solve it themselves through an Excel or through engineering or, you know, shinier tools, whatever that may be, without the help of the people it's actually concerning. So children and youth, for example. And we have this saying that goes, nothing about us without us. And that's something that, and it's also the idea of not ending up with the syndrome of not made here. So having people in a lovely air-conditioned office, or actually we don't have air conditioning, but in an office in the Nordics, trying to solve an issue in Vietnam without asking the people it's affecting. And an example of that would be, there was a little village in Vietnam that was, actually I'm totally ripping off your story, Belina. I just weaved in my creativity, but I'm gonna go with it because it was so good. And it was about this village that was being flooded consistently, and all the chickens were dying because they were drowning. And when Belina said this to me, I'm started thinking, oh, how can we solve this? And I'm thinking little life vests for the chickens, and little this kind of stuff. And then Belina came out with this wonderful thing where there was a woman, I believe, an older woman who just said, why aren't we just raising ducks? And that just blew the top of my head off. And this is the essence of unk-unk. So you do the impact assessment and you figure out where there's negative social impact. And then you take the report that comes out of that. And that's when the work really starts. And this enables the company to pick a diverse team to solve these issues. So if you want to, and the premise is like Singularity University, if you want to make $1 billion, solve a problem for 1 billion people. And the idea is to innovate new products and services that will solve this issue. And in that sense, this makes sense for the company, but it also works with the motivation of the nonprofit, the issues that we're really trying to solve here, and to create the next generation of social entrepreneurs within a company. And then you've got what has been said, the company then has skin in the game, because very often nonprofits will go into a company and they will try and solve a problem that they think the company has. What one needs to do is go in there and solve a problem that the company thinks that they have. Then you get buy-in, because the whole point here is that it's like pushing a life raft for someone who is not willing to paddle themselves. You can push and push and push and then let the raft go, but if they're not going to keep going, there's no motor, there is no incentive, then it's just going to stop there. And this is all about process. And it's also about understanding really what new products and services, one would never, I'll give you an example. So in Sweden, during COVID, there were certain industries that tanked. We know that travel, hotel, these are quite obvious. But then there are other industries that went through the roof. And one of them was knäckebröd, which is a really, really thin, crunchy bread. That went through the roof. Baking yeast went through the roof. Gardening equipment went through the roof. And I guarantee you there isn't a single company in the Nordics, when we had all run out of hand sanitizer, that wasn't thinking, how do I get a piece of that? There are pantyhose makers who were thinking, God, if only we had, and this is what this is supposed to serve. So what I'm going to present to you is actually a real challenge. And what I would like you to do is, I'm going to explain what some of the challenges that are in this real situation. And then we're going to adapt another Belina special called The Evil, Good, and Awesome. No? Are we not doing that? No. I'm not allowed to do that. Beg your pardon.
No, you can do it. You weren't supposed to tell the title, Annika.
See, this is why I write for a living, because I can't tell jokes because I start with the punchline. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We're going to do an activity. A brainstorming activity. Leave it there.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Forget everything that you
Jedi mind trick. We forgot what Annika just said. we're not going to do that, but we are going to do the exercise. We're going to do the exercise, my exercise. How about that? I was trying to invite you in. I love you, Belinda. So, okay, Belinda. So this is what the situation is. If we take the second most valuable commodity that comes from agriculture is vanilla. And the issues around vanilla production are the following. A large percentage of the vanilla that's produced in the world is produced in Madagascar. And the flowers they bloom once a year. And then every year there's also a market where one trades the vanilla. And during this market, everything's done on a cash basis, and which means there are a lot of heavily armed guards. So the violence can break out at any point. There are situations there for children, which are, I'm not going to go into, just wherever your imagination is going, it's that bad, and I'll leave it at that. But the worst, let's say, the worst forms of child labor are in this arena. Everything from very young children actually picking the vanilla pods to other activities that are happening in the marketplace. This particular situation for children and youth is exacerbated by the fact that there is a school vacation that coincides with this market, which means that these children are going to the market. And the bottom line here is that these children are going because they need the money. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, when I did this exercise with some students at the Stockholm School of Economics, they're all MBA students, and the whole point of the exercise was to figure out what business opportunities could one see on this island that would actually solve the issues. What I would like us to do is take a step back and look at some products and services that could be created to solve some of the issues. Does that make sense? Cool. So why don't we take a few minutes? And how many minutes do we have here? What do you think, Amit? Should we take 3 to 4 minutes? Yeah, does that sound good?
We can do another 12 total.
Cool. Okay.
And then we check out in 5. Yeah.
Good. So take 3 minutes and think about some products and services that could solve some of these issues. So we could give it 1 more minute. Okay, and we're back. Is there anyone who feels that they would like to start? How about Jonathan?
I actually had a quite hard time to get something down. I'll pass it along for now and on.
Okay.
I can give it a shot. I wrote down that there should be a service for traceability through the supply chain. There is a similar program for coffee, I think, in Indonesia, where manufacturers are buying straight from the farmers. And if the markets are still there in their form, there could be a solution with like the Swedish Swish, that they can transfer money in a way that's not cash-based, reducing the risks for robberies. And also, like, if we can get true markings for consumers to see that this is traded fairly, there's no child labor involved. And I mean a true marking, not something that you can't trace back all the way. Then that would be a part of it, I think. That's what I wrote down.
Good stuff, Matke. Liana?
Yeah, I totally resonated. And well, I once heard that laws are there where consciousness lacks. So it's like a replacement of consciousness. But in this case, a legalized certification system of fair trade procedures in order to be on market, that will be easy. And a blockchain vanilla industry where all production is registered, every gram of vanilla production can be tracked, like Melker was proposing, might support all those combined to make it as transparent as possible. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And yeah, I was also thinking, because we discussed it a bit before, so I had some time to integrate, but this aspect of not, I mean, getting the kids out of the marketplace, in a sense, like to have either activities at the same, like that are different, or perhaps offer, I mean, the underlying issue seems to be that they need to make enough money to live, right? And so either find ways to increase the price, and then I guess the traceability, the certification could be part of that. Or if there are other things that they could be helping out with, I think around the time, both of, I mean, that would still bring income to so it makes sort of also financial sense too. And then I think this, what Melker had with the credit, like the sort of digital payments in one way to get cash out of the system, make the cash traceable so it goes where it's supposed to be, and so that there's not sort of bags of cash floating around that you would want to try to get your hands on, and one way or the other.
You've touched on a very important issue here, and the fact that there was a case a while ago when Dodd-Frank law was basically put into place, and companies at one point had to account for, they were not allowed to have anyone working under the age of 18 working in a supply chain. So almost overnight, there were thousands and thousands of youth and children that were basically tossed out of suppliers' factories and saying, you're not allowed to work. And Save the Children and a few other organizations worked with a number of these children. They followed them for a number of years. And not a single one of them, not one, ended up going back to school or in a better situation. In fact, it got worse, that they ended up working in mining or something. So the underlying issue, and I think that's really important, is that social entrepreneurship and the basic, one can't only take into account the thing that's what we consider to be not good, because in many cultures it's actually a point of pride for children to help their families, and they don't see that difference. So the idea is, how can it be done in a constructive way, and how can we have a constructive conversation around child labor, that there is youth work, there is child work, child labor, and basically using children without them having a choice. And another, I'm going to just do another little sidebar here. In Bolivia, there was this idea that there were a lot of children who were shining shoes, and they the government decided, you know, this is not going to be allowed. And there was this big outcry from the actual young kids, or the children, because this was a way that they were actually earning money, and no one had asked them. And it goes back to this idea of nothing about us without us, that their voices have to be, hello, their voices have to be taken into account here. And it cannot only be adults that are deciding things for other people.
Yeah, can I chime in on that as well? I think that's because that's what I was sensing when you have to go beyond the, if I understand what you're saying, like you have to go beyond the labels of good and bad from our context, and then
right.
sort of, and that's where, I mean, empathy is one, but like compassion, and also listening and meeting people at eye level, in a sense, are really important. And I'm just mindful of time, but like just
Absolutely.
a short analogy that, or like story that I had a wonderful professor in India when I was reading a course in social entrepreneurship, and they had like, this is like an elite universe, and there's like, you know, this percentage of the income like can even get in there, and then there's like 300, you know, people that are admitted and 30,000 people that apply. And so it's like, you know, unbelievably hard to get in there, really privileged kids. But they had a program where they said, we'll give you the tuition back. It's really expensive. But you need to sort of, you come in and like try to do some good. And the way that you get to do this good is to enroll in a program that's for 2 years. 1 year, you live in a village. That's all you do. And these are like Ivy League, super, you know, well-off, privileged kids. You live in the village, you observe. And then the second year, you get to try to act. And so it's just that, you know, internalization of like what the problem is, and that. So that was his method. I thought that was really profound. So I wanted to share that.
Absolutely. Lovely. Who do we have? Belina.
Hello. I was wondering if the school is a safe place, and so I had sort of this battle in my head of they're supposed to be on school holiday, but that doesn't mean the same, Amit, as you were saying here. And could the school do something like, okay, we're going to make soap in the holiday, or something that like keeps the kids there, and with loving adults watching them instead of sending them off? That was the thing that popped into my head.
That's awesome. Absolutely. And it's about anchoring schooling towards practical skills, that this is something that they're actually going to need. And I love that take on it. Thank you.
Cool.
Jonathan, I'm looking at you. Is there anything coming up?
No, I mean, I agree with everything that everyone has to say, but I think it all comes down to being able to offer better alternatives, as we all have been diving into.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That one can't just remove everything, that you have to work within the social context, to work with it in that way. And just as a sidebar here, something that comes out of the unk-unk methodology is that all of a sudden you're not just creating products and services that are going to solve certain issues. It also helps the nonprofit in question to maybe approach that, you know, we talked about the swish option, that very often companies, when they work with nonprofits, they want to have something concrete. It's not just, they don't want it to be transactional anymore. They want it to be transformational. They don't want to be treated like an MTM machine. They want to do something hands-on. And this is a way, I think, that if a nonprofit were to say, hey, we have this situation in Madagascar, that there's an opportunity here, I think it's safe to say that the jaw would hit the floor. Oh my God. I think this is something, they understand us, and this is an opportunity for us. Let's go and look at it. rather than let's take some of the Christmas money and give it to the nonprofit. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you. So we have just a few minutes, and I wanted to invite a very short checkout. But before we check out, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Belina and to Annika for doing this with me and with us. It was fantastic. But the checkout that I would invite is very shortly. Is there anything, or is there one thing that you'd want to sort of highlight that you are bringing with you from this session?
I can
Can I
start.
start? Or you go ahead.
I was first. No, what I thought throughout the session was the involvement of play, how effective and that can be. I mean, sometimes we feel that we're really stuck, and then play can come in and really solve up the tension and help us move forward. Thank you.
That was what I was going to say, so I'll have to change my story. I like the idea of having a box, stepping outside of it, and looking at it from another perspective. And like, if you're stuck in a loop, then just go, okay, let's try a yes and exercise and see where this ends up. And yeah, I just found that aspect to be renewing for me to bring into what I'm doing. And I have lots of tent business going on around me, so I'll skip out already, and I hope to see you soon again.
Liana, do you feel inclined?
I'm inspired, really like a boost of inspiration and encouragement. So thank you. Yeah, a lot of inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you. I also wanted to say from my side, I think it's this, there's a Nora Bateson quote where she says, tend to the tiny. It's in the tiny that it happens. And I think that's also for me, that's what comes up. There's just those small things, and in a sense, it's like tiny changes of like tiny different frames, like what you were saying, Belina, about separating the positive from, you know, like what you want from what you don't want, and like breaking those apart. That's wonderful. So thanks for giving those tools.
And thank you, Amit, for giving us this platform. And it's been so much fun, and just bubbling conversation, and two crazy ladies with big glasses in your head. That's an image I'm going to take with me. We've done our work, Belina. Yes.
Yeah. There's been inception for sure.
An honor and a delight to work with you guys. Amit, thank you so much for bundling. Well, Annika, thank you for bundling me in to meet Amit and then having me be here. So, and lovely, beautiful to work with you guys today. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll stop it there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.